Hello and welcome, everyone. There's some folks here. Hello. Oh gosh, I'm looking at myself. It's weird. Hey, everyone. It's me, Arminder, here from the Rum Revival. Thank you, everyone who's here right now, live, watching this, and everyone who will be watching this sometime in the future. This first live stream ever. Really excited, really nervous and hoping we don't have a total tech failure, which could happen. Audio, video. So if folks who are watching, what I'd really appreciate is if there are any issues, lag in terms of my lips moving and there's no, or lips moving and what I'm saying coming, a minute later or anything like that, please do let me know in the chat. I'd be really appreciative, and we can kind of take a moment to figure things out. But yeah, otherwise we're gonna kind of get going. People are watching. Whenever you're watching, thank you so much for all the support over the last a year or two. I think, what was it, a month or two ago, I said I was going to do, if we hit 5,000 subscribers, do a live stream, which I was very much excited to do. But knowing me realistically, because I hit it a couple weeks back, it was going to take me a month or two to actually get my act together to do that, a live stream. But luckily, Robin, the guest today, approached me with this idea, and she kind of made all this happen. So thank you to her, which I guess I can do at the moment I bring it onto the chat. Yeah, I'm really excited to do this. Hope to do more of these. And I will say I've got a little fancy mic here. I bought this mic. It's really expensive, but I bought this 10, 15 years ago because I thought at one point I was going to be a film podcaster. And that lasted for all of a month. And I spent all this money for nothing. It's been sitting in my closet forever. And I get to finally bust it out. I'm excited to help offset that. Yeah, I guess the lesson is to, hold on to your shit. And you never know, one day you might get your act together in life and you might need that shit again, which is what just happened here. Anyways, I'm getting some feedback here. Could be, okay. Well, hopefully things are good. Keep us posted. Hey, everyone. Well, you know what? Let's bring our guest on. So quick introduction to our guest, Robin from This Blog's Neat, someone I've admired over the last year or two now on her YouTube channel. If you don't already subscribe to her, you absolutely should. She's fantastic. And I think she does an amazing job of demystifying science and chemistry behind rum and all spirits, and just does a phenomenal job and making it so approachable. So that's awesome. And now she has her own rum brand, which we'll talk about. So anyways, join me in welcoming, oops, where's my cursor here? A doctor, a chemical engineer, a distiller, a YouTuber, and an all-around awesome person. It's the one and only Dr. Robin Smith. Hello. Hi, Robin.
What an introduction.
Could you hear all that?
Yeah, I heard all of it. Yeah, and I feel like you gave me way too much credit for this live, for instigating this live. You did all the work for this.
I mean, we both did a lot of the behind the scenes work, but seriously, if you hadn't texted me, and you texted me Sunday or Monday, not even a week ago?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Hey, we should do the box sets coming out and we should do a thing together. And I had already filmed the video that I posted this week. And I was like, okay, let's scramble. Let's make this happen. And I'm glad you did, because seriously, I would have not have gotten my act together to do a live stream, or I would have eventually, but just not as quickly. And so I definitely do appreciate you lighting the fire. But anyways, welcome, Robin.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you.
Appreciate you doing this. I can't think of anyone better to do a tasting like this, given that we're talking about esters and volatile and non-volatile components and whatnot, and none of which I really know anything about. I feel like I have an actual expert here.
I feel like the more you know how much you don't know, if that makes sense. So I feel like the more sometimes it pays to be just the enthusiast who loves spirits and stuff versus really diving into it.
Yeah, I think there's there's period where you dive into it and suddenly you think you are an expert, and then you take it to a little level more, and then you're like, oh no, I actually don't. And then you hopefully are open to other people, other sources, books, research, other folks who know their stuff to watch and learn from them, which is what I've been doing with your channel for the last year plus now. And I'm curious, I should also be keeping an eye out on chat
I know. I just see there's so many comments. I'm
Yeah.
so
Well, why don't
happy.
we? 22 people watching. That's awesome. Hey, Adam.
Wow.
Hey, Dram Amateur. Hey, Aaron. Hey, Jeffrey. Hey, Difference. Scott. What's up, Scott? How's it going? Graham, Eric, Paul. Thank you all. Um, this is really exciting. So, we're going to get into the tasting for sure, but I definitely wanted to talk a little bit about Robin, with Robin, about what Robin does. And I'm curious. I want to talk about Rum at All, the new rum brand. But before that, let's talk about the YouTube channel. Like, how did that come about, real quick? If we've got a few minutes, and if anyone's watching is not subscribed to Robin's channel, they absolutely should, because it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. My YouTube channel started as a COVID outlet, essentially. So I was the research chemist for Lost Spirits Distillery that is no longer with us. And, a part of what I did, like one of my many hats that I wore was being a tour guide. And I really love to get to share, if those of you who have watched my channel, I love to get to share the science and everything behind spirits. I feel like not only the science, but the art really helps you appreciate spirits. And so I was a tour guide every weekend, giving tours to hundreds of people that were coming through on the tour. And then all of a sudden COVID happened, and I had all this energy of sharing my knowledge and love for spirits that was just stopped. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start posting. I started calling them Savor at Home tastings, because we were safer at home in California. That's what they were calling it. And shout out to my cousin for coming up with that name. But
What's up, cousin?
Yeah, I set up my phone, recorded a video of me tasting something that I had, and directly posted it on YouTube. There was no editing. There was no mic. Not that there's high quality editing or, as you know, high quality mics involved in in my YouTube videos. But yeah, that's how the YouTube channel started. And rum is a really fun industry to tap into. So I started mostly with tasting whiskeys and stuff, and would sprinkle in some rums, and it just, I don't know, it's really easy to love rum. So kind of
absolutely
stuck with that, and has since evolved to be more of like a rum. I shouldn't say more of a rum based channel, but yeah, more of a rum based channel.
I think so. I mean, I do appreciate when you do the other stuff too, but yeah, the rum stuff has been great. And I'm curious with Rum at All, and kind of what you've been doing now, at least publicly facing in the last couple months now. When did that plan come into place? Was that something you were going to do during the Lost Spirits days, after that all kind of went down, or?
No, I had started doing experiments at home, because again, like, I had to take my my work home with me. And so that meant experiments at home. And I started sharing my experiments on YouTube as well, not just doing tastings. Yeah, I did not, I don't know, when you start working at a distillery and get to see how hard it is to be a craft distillery that actually focuses on making really great spirits, and it's just, the small craft distillers have to compete with the huge industrial plants that are in Kentucky, right? These huge brands that are able to put so much money into everything that they're doing, and therefore it allows them to price their bottles much lower. It allows them to store their whiskeys for much longer and everything. And when you have craft distillers coming in trying to compete with that for the consumer, it's just such a struggle. And so I saw that firsthand, how hard it is working at a distillery. And so I thought, in theory, would love to have my own distillery, but man, just the grind and the game you have to play in order to survive, not even thrive, survive, was like, nah, this isn't for me. But luckily I met Aaron from Dead of Night Distillery, and he was like, yeah, come treat this essentially as your own distillery. You can come make booze here, make rum here. He wanted to learn. He's primarily into gins and other botanical spirits. That's what he makes primarily, but he was like, I'd love to learn about the fermentation side of things and how you're doing distillations and making your distillation cuts and everything like that. And so he's getting to learn. And yeah, I feel like the way I describe it is like, I'm like a squatter distiller. I'm like, I don't actually own the place.
Well, we actually, I got to see it, which is, going actually how we met about 2 months now, or so, something
whenever,
like that. At LA Rum Fest. It's the first time we met in person. I think I mean, at least I was a fan of you. We've kind of chatted online here and there. Yeah. And we talked about, hey, I was going to be down in LA. Are you going to be down there? It'd be cool to see each other. And I got to meet you and your whole crew. You're rolling pretty deep. And it was really fun to chat and shoot the shit at the festival. And then you were very kind enough to invite me over to the distillery the next morning, which was awesome. It was really cool to see the space. For something like an idiot, I realized, like, why did I not record anything while I was there? I had like a camera, I had this stuff to do that, but for whatever reason I didn't. So oops.
Well, you're gonna have to come back down to LA.
Yeah, for sure. But the space was really cool to getting to see what you were doing, because at the time, and we'll segue into what you've got coming out now, but you were working on distilling this newest release, right? Dunder Clap, right?
Yep.
And so at that point, you're running the first kind of runs, or was it?
Yep. So you got to see the fermentation. It was one of my first stripping runs. You got to see the fermentation kind of left over, or what was left over in the fermentation. You got to see a stripping run, which is nice and easy. You just, plug and play pretty much. Load up the still and run it and collect what comes off. It's pretty straightforward, whereas the spirit cut is a little bit more involved, a lot more involved. Yeah, there's a lot more questioning life as you're going through it. You're like, is this it? Is this what I'm collecting? So is this what I'm keeping? Is this what I'm tossing? Yeah.
And I don't know if I mentioned, or if you mentioned, but the brand, of course, is Rum It All. This was the first release, the baseline. It's probably not going to pick up. There you go. Boop.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. And this is the 49% ABV version, which I think is fantastic. Not weirdly, but like I decided to make El Presidentes with this, and it was great in there, which is not what you would think with like a pot still higher ester rum, but I think it worked really well. And then so the next release, the current release that's out, is basically kind of the same sort of recipe, but now with Dunder added in.
Yep. Awesome. Dunder added into the fermentation to displace some of the water. And for those who haven't heard of Dunder, I feel like I just talk about Dunder nonstop.
Well, we're going to get into a lot of that today, right?
We're going to get into that. Yeah, great segue. Dunder is the stillage that is left over in the still after distillation. So imagine the wine, but you have now stripped out all of the alcohol, some of the water, and I should say a decent amount of the flavor from that. And so what's left over is a lot of those heavier compounds. And the point of using Dunder is multi-purposed, right? It's so you can recycle a waste product, which in Jamaica, they have to deal with actually processing that waste. You can't just toss it into the ocean. Like, that's not cool. Right. And it is regulated. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're seeing a little shortage of the Wray and Nephew right now, is because of a processing of waste issue. I don't know if it has to do with the rainfall or something like that, but some of it does get diluted and used as fertilizer in the cane fields. But that requires certain conditions and certain soil quality, like they're monitoring the soil at all times. So that's one reason, is to recycle a waste product. Another is to recycle in some flavors. You're also dropping the pH in the fermentation, which makes a little bit better environment for the yeast. You are adding in nutrients, recycling in essentially dead yeast cells as well that can act as yeast nutrient, etc. So it's multifold.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
what you have at the distillery, that initial batch of Dunder that you showed me that I got to like get
Mm-hmm.
in there and smell.
Yeah.
Is that something that, did you end up using all of it for this new release, the Dunder clap, or is it going to continually, you're just going to build on it and add to it, I guess, and use some of it
It's
for
gonna,
all releases?
yeah. I keep adding to it. So it's kind of,
Okay.
I can't call it a Dunder pit because it's just a IBC tote, right? It's just this tote, but it's so where every batch, every distillation, the Dunder goes right in there and mixes and sits and waits for me to use it again.
Awesome. Well, looking forward
Yeah.
to seeing what you do. I still need to get around to ordering my bottle of Dunder Clap. Sorry, I will do that for sure. But I'm excited to see subsequent releases, to see how the brand evolves and what you do and where you take it. It's really exciting. So yeah, before we move on to the actual marks, I don't know if you wanted to cover any other topics, if anything you wanted to mention. Any shout outs?
I don't think so. I didn't realize we were going to talk so much about me. I feel like we should talk about you.
No, I mean, this is on my channel, so people already know how I am, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching right now probably already know who you are. But still, I think it's worth getting into, because, like I said, I'm really fascinated by what you do, and I think it's really exciting what you're doing, and I think I want more people to be hip to what you're doing with Rum at All. So,
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
For sure. All right. So we are the main meat of this topic of this video is of course. Oh gosh, I dropped all this.
Yeah.
Is this set as well as the one here, Black? The Hampden 8 marks sets.
I got them both
unaged,
behind me, stacked on top of one another. Do we want to? I feel like we have some questions in the chat.
Oh yeah.
I see one from Bill. What's the ABV of Dunder, and does it just last well at ambient temperature? The ABV of Dunder is essentially no alcohol. It's all been stripped out. And when it first comes off the still, it's essentially sterile. But as soon as, like Armando, you can attest to this. Like as soon as you let it sit, microbes are starting to get in there. And I don't know if it's from the lees that are left over in the fermentation, which should all be completely killed, right? You are boiling the shit out of the Dunder. It should be, or out of the wash. So everything should be dead, but it's possible that like a few yeast and bacteria are able to sustain those temperatures and are now still in the Dunder. So if you let it sit, you'll see it grows like a really cool brain looking pellicle on top. And then it becomes almost like a live Dunder, and they're feeding off of whatever's in there. And so sometimes that's some residual sugars that are in there. Scott said Robin's eyes lighting up the second she gets to talk about microbes. So yeah, they're just feeding on whatever's left in the Dunder, and that is dependent on what your feedstock, essentially what you're using for your raw ingredients. But yeah, so thank you for the question, Bill.
And didn't you have a question from one of your patrons as well?
I did. Colin wanted us to talk about, I mean, we'll probably talk about it as we're tasting through these. And this is probably more of a question for you, but it's about, and you kind of touched on it in your intro video about like consumption of these marks and putting them in cocktails and blending with them and stuff, which I feel like we'll get to talk about once we start talking about how they actually taste.
Yeah, totally. And so, yeah, let's just, if you're not familiar, I imagine most people who are watching right now know what these sets are, but Hampden Estate distillery in Jamaica, both of these sets showcase the 8 marks or kind of distillates that they produce to ultimately make any and all of their releases. So these are all 8 unique, and they're unique because they follow different there's different variables in the production process that they play. A big part of that is during the fermentation process to change the overall, I guess, chemistry, frankly, of the marks. So you end up with different flavor and aromas depending on the different chemical compositions of these. So that first set, the one in all black, is unaged. All 8 of them at 60% ABV, right?
Yep, 60%.
And then The new one that just came out is they're bottled at 52% ABV, but now the difference is that they've all been aged 1 year in ex-bourbon casks. And these aren't like each, as far as I know, they're not like single barrel releases. Like they didn't just take one barrel of HLCF and bottle that up. I'm pretty sure it's a blend of a bunch of different barrels for that HLCF or the LROK and so on and so forth. But I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case, just given the...
we could speculate about that because I wonder, how many of these actually went out. We could definitely speculate about how many barrels we think.
We can ask Kate.
Or in each one.
But yeah, the idea with this video is the idea with this video is that we're going to taste through at least the first 4 marks. I think we're going to try to keep it, relatively manageable. If we're having a fun freewheeling time and we're in the moment, maybe we might add another 1 or 2. But let's just try to keep it focused on the first 4, the lower ester marks, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of we're going to alternate between marks, and we're both going. I think, we'll see how it goes. I think we have I've taken 2, you've taken 2. We're going to see how that goes. But potentially, if you've got something to share on the other person's mark, please do. But Robin, I think we're going to start off with OWH.
We're going to start off with OWH. And I think the goal of us tasting these and also splitting them up is so we can taste the unaged side by side with the aged mark.
Right.
Or 1 year old mark, and actually get to see if we can pinpoint the differences that are coming from the oak or coming from it being aged, right? That's our goal here when we're tasting these side by side.
And that's the whole promise of the 2 sets, was this idea of you can take the unaged and then try it against the age and see what that 1 year age, because the aged set by itself, the red one, it's tough to actually do that because there's no unaged versions of those marks in that set. You can kind of compare the individual marks against each other, but still, when you're trying to just look at what aging does to that specific mark, then that's, you kind of have to do what we're doing right now. So
which you definitely touched upon in your video.
So I've got a couple of videos on this, and so does Robin. So if you haven't seen them, make sure to check out.
Only the unaged, though. I've only done the unaged. I haven't dabbled.
Oh yeah, so this is to be fair, we should full disclosure here. This is your first experience with the age marks. And this is not my first experience.
It's not.
It's not. Sorry. I got a little too excited. And
no, I mean, the reason I texted you about doing this live was because I was so overwhelmed with the thought of trying to taste all 16 of them, right? All of the marks side by side with the unaged and the 1 year old. And that was just boggling my mind. And I thought it would also be cool to taste them, against one another to see how they vary. But it was just a little overwhelming. So that's why I texted you about this.
So here we are.
So we're going to start with
chat. Someone's asking what kind of casks they use. These are all, based on what I was reading in the sheet, is all standard ex-bourbon, so each of these sets come with information. This one's 4 pages long, and it's pretty involved. A lot of it went over my head. But from what I read, rereading it again today too, it seemed like pretty standard run of the mill, American oak ex-bourbon. And so Robin, do you want to speak a little bit to, check this out. We're talking about OWH and folks, I'm so excited about doing this. Boom. Look at that. I spent all this morning trying to figure out how to do that.
I feel like I should have had wow, some kind of sound effect as soon as it popped up for you. So OWH.
Please.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. Do your thing.
Well, I mean, I can smell. You can talk. I'll smell you talk.
Okay, there you go. OWH is the first mark, and it stands for, as you can see here, Outram Wormold Hussey, who's, I believe, great grandfather of the current owners of Hampden Estate, the Hussey family, the great-grandfather of the current owners. That's what it was. And this is actually a new mark. So of the 8 marks, the first 2 that we're going to talk about here, OWH, LFCH, are brand new marks that they created when they bought the estate in 2008, 2009, whatever it is. And in terms of how this is made, This is, thank you, Scott. I appreciate the wow. Some enthusiasm for my graphic, my lower third. This is made. These first two are made with molasses and water. All Hampden's marks go through a wild natural fermentation, and these two only use molasses and water. This one, I don't. Do you want to speak to the ester count or?
Oh, I can speak to the ester count. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So each of them are kind of classified by ester count. And here, OWH has a 40 to 80 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol. And my first question to you, Robin, is just what the hell is grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol?
I have a video about this. I have a video about this. Yeah, you can, but it's the concentration, but they're standardizing it. When you standardize it based on hectoliter of pure alcohol, you're able to now compare them side by side, like independent of the actual ABV. So it's not exactly right. This in this glass, because it's 60% ABV, it's going to have less than 40 to 80 grams of esters per volume of this, because it's been essentially watered down a little bit with water. But that's just the standard measure for esters that was developed way back in the day. I'm gonna forget when they actually started to standardize this, but it's pretty common, especially when we talk about rums, is you'll see grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol all the time. And it's mostly talking about esters, right? So 40 to 80, the way that they're getting this high ester concentration is simply by just letting the wash spontaneously ferment. So they're not pitching any yeast. So they just have molasses, water, and they are letting that spontaneously ferment for 3 days. And you'll see when we move to LFCH that now an additional 4-day ferment, you now get an additional esters, essentially a higher ester concentration, just letting it ferment for 1 additional day. But I do like to point out, as you said, like these first 2 marks are the newest marks at Hampden, and they do not include any of the Dunder, muck, cane vinegar that we're used to seeing for, like, I don't know, rum fire, right? For those higher ester marks. So this is on the Hampden spectrum, the lowest mark that they have. And I feel like that's pretty apparent, right? The notes are kind of like, I get like citrus and grassiness on the nose. And then on the palate, it's kind of lighter fruits. I get more of like pineapple core. Some of that grassiness comes through, more like fresh figs. And this is for the unaged, by the way. So I was already smelling the aged, and it's just much more present on the nose. There is more of a presence. I am getting a little bit of like a green woodiness right off the bat on the nose. But I feel like it weirdly kind of highlights those, like that pineapple core note. Like, so it's kind of turning up, that like fruitiness on the nose for me, which I find interesting.
It's weird because the first thing I get with the age expression is butter. Like initially, when I first put it up to my nose, like this hit of like, and that's just coming from going from here, right? And I've noticed that when they just kind of, everything feels a little more buttery or sweeter, and that might be not the right term to use. But anytime I go from the unaged expression to the age, regardless of the mark, regardless if I'm sipping it or tasting it, just feels a little more like heavier or fattier sometimes, you know, and that's probably coming from the fact that there's none of those wood stuff in the unaged versions.
On the palate, I get a lot more, I don't know, it's a lot more spicy, grassy, that I feel like the nose was Yeah, I'm getting like a star anise thing on the nose now. It is really fun. The order of which you taste things is going to impact what you're smelling and tasting. Yeah, we got a question about, given that these are natural yeast, are they produced significant distances apart? No, I believe they're all in the same. Yeah, as Scott said, all these fermentation vats are in the same building, and I'm pretty sure they have never been washed out. Like they're just holding on to, and they're wooden washbacks that they use, and I'm pretty sure they're just holding on to the microbes of Hampden. So yeah, it should be the same or similar yeast and bacteria that are getting into that fermentation. That might change once we start adding in Dunder muck cane vinegar, only because some microbes that might not necessarily be happy in an acidic environment, when you add vinegar and the muck, you're dropping that pH. They might not be able to thrive as much as some of the other ones that can thrive at lower pHs. So I'd love if someone at Hampden would send me samples so I could put under my microscope.
Wouldn't that be nice? I think it was.
I've got my Hampden shirt on today too. So
the one thing, just smelling these, what I get with this and with a lot of these unaged ones is a little bit of like salinity or brininess, maybe like a touch of olive. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I picked that up a whole lot on the aged expression as much. Yeah. To me, the aged one get just rounder, softer, like sweet banana, like to your point, maybe some of that kind of banana. Sorry, not banana, pineapple.
Yeah.
Even a little bit.
Yeah, but I still feel like it's like still that like pineapple core. Whereas like as we'll get into the higher marks, that gets much more like rotten pineapple to me, right? Or like really overripe pineapple. This is still like, doesn't really scream pineapple. So it reminds me more of the core. But yeah, I think I don't get any brininess on the aged. I'd have to look for it in the unaged. But I do get more spice, more of like kind of like an herbal grassiness on the aged. I'm very pleased with the 1-year-old. Like this is a nice little rum to sip.
It is. And one thing which I wanted to mention is that OWH is the rum that's used for the Hampden 8-year. So this is entirely OWH aged 8 years in this case in ex-bourbon, all in Jamaica. So this aged expression is just 1 year into its life and becoming the 8-year-old release. And I think that 8-year-old is a great rum. I'm a fan of it. And I've found that OWH, I've come to really appreciate it in its unaged form, in its 1 year, in its 8-year. It's just a hell of a little rum, you know?
I think it's funny that I don't know, we don't really think of it as a high ester rum because it's in comparison with all the other marks from Hampden. But there's a lot, like this does have a high ester concentration relative to most of the other white rums that you'll come across naturally in you know, like it's that spontaneous fermentation and the fact that it's in that fermentation room, all with the other fermentations, that gives it, that high enough concentration of esters to give you that fruitiness. And for anyone wondering what esters are, I don't know if we've talked about this, but they are the chemical compounds that are smell and taste floral and fruity. And they only make up a small portion of the congeners, the non-ethanol and water compounds in spirits. So I think I talked about this in my video of the 8 Marks collection. And I don't know. Oh, I did write it down. So for example, for OWH, it has 0.5% congeners. So it's, 99.5% ethanol and water, and then 0.5% are these other flavors and aromas you're getting, and 0.04% are actually esters. So like less than a tenth of the congeners are actually esters. So there is a lot more at play. However, because of our detection limitations to our low detection limitations to esters, we can pick them up at really, really low concentrations.
Got it. And each of these marks have like a different mix of esters in different kind of concentrations. So not all of these are going to have the same type of esters in them necessarily. And even if they potentially did, they'd probably be in different proportions. And all that chemistry of bringing all those different esters together ultimately create the flavor and aroma that you're getting, right?
Yeah.
That's the cocktail of it all.
And I feel like this would be extremely overwhelming if Hampden had included that on the 4-page giant book here. But if they had also done the chemical analysis and showed how the ester concentration changed with 1 year of aging, or if it changed with 1 year of aging, like that would have just made my nerd heart so happy if they had done that. But I think that would have been taking it just like a little bit too far.
Even though it's not technically my mark to be drinking, but the age expression, I get all this like baking spice that I don't get in the unaged one, but I do get like a hit of like maybe like black pepper or something in the unaged expression.
Okay. I get a lot of allspice on the nose now with the aged. Yeah, I don't know how deep we want to dive into like the breakdown of the volatile and non-volatile compounds that they included on the sheet right here. I don't know how deep we're wanting to go here
for the aging for the aging one.
Yeah.
Well, we could use this kind of see how it goes, and if it like just gets overly kind of nerdy, we don't have to do it for the other marks, but it might be worth diving into at least for this first one.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, they have included, and I don't know if you have yours in front of you, Arminder, but I'll try to hold it up to my webcam here. So similarly to how they included like the ester breakdown, they also included the volatile and non-volatile compounds that are extracted from the oak. So primarily when we're talking about the non-volatile, which means that you're probably not going to be, Robin has a green light, go. Okay, dive into the nerdy stuff. You're probably not going to be picking it up much on the nose versus like you're going to pick that up much more on the palate. And you can see like for OWH and for all of them, actually, that most of the non-volatiles are furfurols. And when they're talking about furfurols, they mean furfural and 5-methyl furfural. And that's like, I think you talked about this on your video, right? That's your peanut butter, roasted hazelnut, caramel. I know furfural to be more of like a roasted and roasted caramel note. But that's primarily the non-volatile compound, the predominant for all across the board.
Across the board, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Can I just say that furfural is a very fun word to say?
Isn't it fun?
It's very fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I wish it was in my life sooner than coming across it in this particular sheet, because man, I would have had a lot of fun with it over the years. Furfural. Just there's something to it.
I don't know. I think the chemical compound too like looks cute. It's just like it's got
Oh, Robin.
I don't know. I feel like it's so easy to like anthropomorphize like all of these compounds. And I'm just like, oh, it's just like hanging out.
And you
Oh
know, this
gosh.
breakdown, like furfural, that's it's not specific to rum either, right? This is, we're talking,
No.
because this is all coming, to be clear, these volatile components and non-volatile, this is what's being extracted from the ex-bourbon casks,
Mm-hmm.
right? These are
Mm-hmm.
initially living in the wood, right?
Yep.
And through the act of the rum expanding into the wood and expanding out and kind of extracting and leaching out some of the compound, the molecules that are present in the wood, it starts pulling these different volatile and non-volatile compounds, one of which is furfurols.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Got it. So
Yep.
you'll
You
see it
got it.
in whiskeys and bourbons and all that too. And you know how
Oh
you're
yeah.
saying here it's very common across all 8 marks. Would that mean that furfurols are very common, if not the common, non-volatile in most whiskeys and bourbons then too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Furfural is very much present in and is very predominant in all aged spirits.
Aged spirits.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Vanillin is also another. Did we have vanillin on? Oh, yeah, of course we have vanillin on here. Vanilin's also one that's pretty predominant. And I don't know if that's because our detection threshold for that is slightly lower. If you look, it's also one of the non-volatile compounds, but that's essentially vanilla, right? So a lot of ex-bourbon, right? A lot of American oak, you will get vanillin coming through. But if you look at like the OWH, it's such a tiny little part of the little pie chart here. Yeah, and kind of again like across the board, right? Vanilin's such a small part of it, so maybe that's something. I don't know. Arminder, let me ask you: if they put out one of these regularly, right? If they now put out a 5-year, 8 marks collection, are you picking up the 5-year?
Yeah, totally. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, it's probably going to be more expensive. There's that, and I'm curious to see if there's like diminishing returns in terms of how much product they move. You know, from the unaged to the year to the 5-year. But I think that would be. I would love to try LFCH, for example, in a 5-year expression, right? Because especially with like some of these, I've never tried by themselves in any kind of significant aged kind of expression. So I definitely would be interested in that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I bought both of the kits as well, like both of the collections. Like, I love this. Like, I would probably buy if they came out with like a 2-year. I'd probably buy it. Like,
well, I was gonna say we should do this 4 years from now. Let's do this all over again.
We'll do this 4 years from now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I feel like we should pass you off, and now you should try the LFCH. I don't know if you've already started it, but I feel like that was a lot of time talking about OWH, and I can also answer questions. Like we have one. Any idea what different cask entry proof makes in aging? Yeah, that's definitely. That would definitely have a really big impact. And it's kind of hard to do an A/B test. I have tried to do A/B tests multiple times before to see how barrel entry proof impacts the flavors that you get. But the compounds that are more soluble in water will be more readily extracted by a lower barrel entry proof versus the compounds that are more soluble in ethanol, which tend to be like your spicier notes. That would be extracted at a higher proof, a higher barrel entry proof. And I would love to know what the barrel entry proof was for these rums. I don't think it says it on here. I don't know. I read through the whole thing, and that was like one of the questions that I had. Which another interesting thing is like how the barrel proof the barrel proof is changing over time. Right. And so that now means, okay, the barrel entry proof, what's initially extracted versus now how that equilibrium changes as you're getting evaporation losses and everything. It's we could dive into like the weeds on all the complexities when it comes to aging spirits. So
In terms of LFCH, we should give the spiel about what it's all about. Lawrence Francis Close Hussey is what what the letter stand for, who's, I guess, the son of OWH's Outram Hussey. So I guess at the time that the Hussey family purchased Hampden Estate, Lawrence Francis Close Hussey was the kind of head of the family, if you will. And so this one, I can't wait to press this button. It's like the most exciting thing ever. Is 80 to 120 grams per hectoliter. It's the little things, you know, it really is.
Yeah.
And like with the OWH here, this is also just water, just molasses, still like everything else, wild, natural fermentation, but no muck yet, no dunder, no cane acid. The major difference here is the length of the fermentation. We go from 3 days to 4 days with the LFCH, which I just realized now are the same letters that make up HLCF. How the hell did I not ever pick that up till this very moment? That's ridiculous. Anyways.
Yep. You'd be correct.
That would be, yeah. It's just an observation. I actually, we'll just get into what I'm smelling here a little bit. On the unaged expression here, there's a little soft banana, maybe. I am still picking up a little bit of that, like I did with OWH, the little bit of like briny olive kind of situation. And
I should have grabbed more Glencairns.
I've got way too many. It's ridiculous. And I don't have people over. I don't like to invite people over. I'm a hermit that way. But I have enough to like accommodate a tasting like this for like 10 people. For what reason? I'm never going to invite people over, but I have that many Glencairns.
You've got the option.
I guess so.
One thing I think is so cool. Well, I think a lot of things are so cool. I love Hampden. I've got the freaking shirt on. Like, I love Hampden. But about going from OWH to LFCH, one additional day of fermentation not only gives you a higher ester concentration, but also gives you a more diverse ester profile of the non-ethyl acetate esters, right? I don't know if you noticed this looking at I've got both of my sheets in front of me. For the unaged,
there's more colors.
See if I can hold it up.
Pie chart.
Yeah, so you can see that for OWH, there are, regardless of the mark, most of the esters are ethyl acetate, and that's anywhere from, what's our lowest, 91.5% all the way up to 98.3% are so most of the esters are ethyl acetate, but the non-ethyl acetate esters are ethyl butyrate, isoamyl acetate, ethyl caproate, and ethyl lactate for OWH. And now for LFCH, we now have ethyl caprolate and ethyl caprate, which have other names that make them slightly less confusing, because I feel like going ethyl caproate, ethyl caprolate, ethyl caprate is like, did I not just say the same thing? So ethyl caproate, also known as ethyl hexanoate, tends to be more like appley. Ethyl caprylate or ethyl octanoate is like fruity, winey, apricot-y. And ethyl decanoate or ethyl caprate tends to be like a waxier ester. But you can see that, like, yeah, just one additional day, and we have higher ester concentration and higher ester diversity, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. And I like that it's just the one day and it's suddenly a whole different thing. In terms of the nose of the two, where the unaged, I get that brine, that olive, a little bit of soft banana, and a little bit of like herbaceousness of some kind. What's crazy to me is, frankly, how different the aroma is on the aged expression, because all I'm getting two very like this one I had to like really get into, like really smell it. This one, it was very easy, the aged version of LFCH, because to me, I immediately pick up chocolate covered banana. Like it's to me, like it's just automatically what I kind of just comes to my mind immediately when I smell it. And then the other thing, if I can kind of get past the chocolate covered banana of it, which is not a thing I'm getting. I get a little bit of banana on the unaged expression on the nose, but definitely no real chocolate. But I'm also getting, it kind of honestly smells a bit like a tiki drink, almost like a punchy Mai Tai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like some of the better Mai Tais I've had. It reminds me of that, even just on the aroma, which is crazy. Because that's not really what's happening on the nose. Are you pouring some out for yourself?
Yes, I'm pouring some.
Yeah, I'd love to know if you also get any of the chocolate covered banana on the LFCH. But I should probably go in and have some sips, shouldn't I?
Aaron, I think they do sell these shirts at the at Hampden, but this was a gift. I have never been to Hampden. I fear that if I go, I'll never leave.
I get on the unaged LFCH a little bit of light pineapple, but I'm also getting that olive brine thing a little bit as well. But there's also like a fruitiness that's not just like pineapple. It's almost like a little bit of I don't know, like a berry of some kind. Yeah, I get like a candied berry of some kind, maybe. I don't know if it's like, because there's a signature that I think is a signature note for a lot of the later marks that I kind of perceive as like strawberry banana. To me, that's a very Hampden thing. That's not what this is. That's not that kind of strawberry banana yogurt note that I often associate with some of the mid marks. This is just kind of a different kind of berry. It's nice. Yeah, a little bit of olive. But let's let me get in here. That just feels like an entirely different rum. I mean, it is in a sense. I'm getting, wow. What is that? Honestly, it kind of tastes like a Mai Tai. I'm getting like a nuttiness to it.
Okay.
Like an almondy nuttiness.
Interestingly, so I see what you're saying about the chocolate covered banana and the nuttiness. This, when I nose it, of course my brain goes to like, oh, this reminds me of like what I find in like French oak, which is a lot more like spicy notes, chocolatey notes, a lot more of these like dark spices. And I get that as well on the palate. And so I was just looking at like the little blurb that they have about this. This sample distinctly shows notes of wood. Which I think is funny. But yeah, it does say it has a higher presence of ellagic acid and whiskey lactones. And yeah, that's again like barrel variation, right? That's just like maybe that barrel just had a lot more ellagic acid present.
Well, so here's a question actually
extraction.
related to, but I'm interested in that, right? So in this hypothetical, right? If we had, it's impossible to do this, but if you had the same barrel and if you were to put LFCH in it for a year and you compared it to a different universe where you had put OWH in it for a year, would we have the same amount of all these whiskey lactones and all of that? Or because of the different chemical composition of the marks, would it alter? Again, we're talking about the exact same barrel, right?
Like you're saying, we have a world where we can, make the exact same barrel. Would the compounds that are extracted be exactly the same?
Or very close to, I guess. right? Because like to your point,
Yeah.
they're showing that the volatile non-volatile
Mm-hmm.
compounds between these different marks are different proportions and all that. And is that a product of the wood or a product of a combination of the wood and the rum? I'm assuming it's maybe the latter, but I don't know anything.
I think it's C, all of the above.
Okay, all right.
I think, honestly, though, I think it's more a factor of the actual wood itself, like the actual barrel itself, and just variations from barrel to barrel. I think that's where you'll see the biggest difference versus the chemical composition of the white spirit that goes into it. Yes, that's going to play a role if you can somehow in a universe make the two barrels exactly identical on a molecular level. Then you're going to see differences, and that's entirely due to the spirit that went into it. But yeah, barrel variation. That's why, yeah, I kind of alluded to earlier, we can speculate about how many barrels we think maybe went into this. Do we think it is a single barrel thing that they're doing? Because there is that barrel variation from mark to mark, right? You can see it chemically, and I think you can taste it, like just going from OWH to LFCH, right? What was extracted was definitely a lot different from OWH in LFCH. Yeah, a lot more of those woody notes. Sorry. Yeah.
The one thing, I don't know if I'm looking at my pour here of LFCH, and there's a lot of color on that. Or relative to all of the other 8 aged marks, I think LFCH actually has the most color on it. And I'm looking at the 4 that I've poured here. They're all relatively paler than the LFCH.
Oh, yeah.
I think there might be a later mark, if I remember correctly, that has a noticeable amount of color, but I just remember now going back and when I was drinking through these, that LFCH stood out. And of course, that's a product, though, of course, of the wood, right? Of the whatever wood and whatever's being pulled from there.
Right.
That's not anything special related to LFCH so much, right? It just happens to be whatever wood was used.
Yeah, my guess is that if there's a lot of ellagic acid, which I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it right, but I might be pronouncing it incorrectly. There's like a lot of words that I read and then never say out loud.
Sure,
I feel like this is one of them. But that would come from kind of the breakdown of these polyphenols. So it's possible that there's a lot more tannin that's been extracted as well, and then slowly broken down, right? Because it's not like the ethanol and water are going in and just grabbing like one little molecule at a time, right? They're kind of, they can extract larger molecules, and that's why we get the color, right? That's coming from polyphenols. And I believe ellagic acid is a derivative from tannins, and so perhaps this just has a higher tannic concentration.
I see. One thing going
which is what would give it the color. Yeah,
okay. Going back to the unaged expression, I'm getting this like green banana note that I didn't pick up right away, but I think because kind of traveling back and forth between these samples, you start picking certain things up when you kind of go back to the other one, because your palate's kind of smelling certain things, and then suddenly it shifts to a different direction, and you might kind of notice things that you weren't noticing before. It's a soft green banana, and I don't get that as so much. Well, I get the chocolate banana on the nose of the aged expression. Yeah, I definitely lose that little berry note that I said I was getting in the unaged. I don't get that so much in the aged anymore. To me, I get that nuttiness. It really does taste like a bit of like a Mai Tai to me.
Scott is saying he did some math, and depending on how many sets they've made of these, it could be that this is a single barrel.
Oh, okay.
He's saying, with a standard bourbon barrel, which ex-bourbon barrel is like 200 liters, you should get 1,000 of these little 200 milliliter bottles. So yeah.
that seems sort of
Might
reasonable, right?
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott, for some of that quick math.
Yeah. For doing math for us. Thanks.
Yeah. Math is hard.
Yeah, I don't know how many sets they made. I feel like these sets are like very niche, right? They're not. I feel like I'm not struggling to find them either.
No, yeah. You can still
Like
get the
once they
unaged
are,
ones. Yeah.
yeah. Like I think KNL still has the unaged. So I feel like it is very much like a niche thing. But like I'm so happy that they're putting them out there because this is really, really cool.
Yeah. Just to kind of wrap up the LFCH, to me, the big takeaway is by adding that age, you're adding that kind of nutty almond note. You're adding that kind of a little more banana, a little bit more on the aroma, a little like chocolate notes for me. Maybe even like a little like a fatty coconut oil kind of situation, maybe. And I'm losing what I was originally getting on the unaged. I'm losing some of the berry notes. And it's tougher for me to find the brininess that I'm getting in the unaged expression. Is tougher for me to find that in the aged expression.
So I wonder if some of those notes that you're getting in the unaged have been either masked by the oak extractives, what's extracted from the oak, or have been transformed. And I feel like at 1 year, react to form some other chemical compounds. At 1 year, I don't know that there's all that much chemical reaction going on versus extraction is such a big part of it in the first few years. But that's, I'm just throwing a thought out there that crossed my mind. That again, like this is me wanting to know the entire chemical analysis. Like, give me all of the congeners.
Yeah,
give me it all.
We want it all.
Yeah, I want to compare them. I want to put them in a spreadsheet, and I want to actually compare them and see what I think is happening. But yeah.
But unfortunately, wow, we already hit an hour. Oh my gosh! All right, we gotta.
I know.
Let's move on to LROK. Or I don't know. Do most people call it LROK or do they call it LROK?
I call it LROK.
Okay.
Yeah. I call it LROK, but I
don't know. Yeah.
This is where we start to add in some of the goodies into the fermentation. So this is where we add in cane juice vinegar, Dunder, and muck. And they don't specify how much they're adding in, but relative to what's added into the other marks, this and HLCF both have low amounts of cane juice vinegar, Dunder, and muck added in. And this is the first time that we're also seeing the alcoholic versus dead wash fermentation pop up, right? So we have alcoholic fermentation is 3 days, and then the dead wash is 2 days for a total fermentation time of 5 days.
So the alcoholic fermentation is the fermentation that we all know and love, that we're all familiar with. But what is a dead wash? That sounds very serious and dramatic.
It does sound serious, yeah. So again, this is kind of my speculation, is that the most active part of the fermentation is going on for those first 3 days. And I believe, and feel free for those of you who have been to Hampden and can confirm or deny, I believe that muck isn't added in until the dead wash portion of the fermentation. I believe it's molasses, cane juice, vinegar, Dunder, and water allowed to spontaneously ferment for 3 days. And then muck is added in, which is a whole nother, I don't know, Arminder, how much longer are we gonna, like, how long do we want to go tonight? That's a whole nother beast, right? And very, very almost secretive, I would say. But I believe that gets added in during the dead wash. So
yeah, I think so. I think I've read that somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And light rum Owen Kelly. So I want to break that down. So Owen Kelly was name of one of the previous owners. Where are my notes here? I don't know if it was like in the early 1900s or mid. Either way, what I find fascinating about this is like they're calling it a light rum. This because remember the Hussey family credited the first two marks, so this was the lightest rum Hampden had up until like 15, 20 years ago, whatever it is. And I find that funny with it having. And let me quickly, gracefully click on my LROK button to show that this has 200 to 400 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol. So that's their light rum, or was up until fairly recently.
If I hopefully one day I will have a rum that is, you know, has an ester concentration of that. But like I'd be so happy. I'd be like, I did it, guys. I made a high ester rum.
Hell yeah.
But I don't know. You'll also notice that the ABV of the wash for OWH and LFCH is 5%. Once you start adding in the cane vinegar, Dunder, and muck, that drops to like 2 to 4% ABV, which if there's any distillers out there watching this, you'll be horrified by that, because that is such a low yield. It's barely any alcohol. And so you have to make a ton of it and then distill a ton of it in order to get out rum, high ester rum, right? That's such a low ABV wash. So for a lot of people, that's like, oh, no way. I can't afford to ferment that much and get that low of an alcohol yield. So.
That's good. Okay. So then I imagine a distillery when something like this, because they have to put so much raw materials in to get so little alcohol, that's a big reason why they charge maybe potentially a higher price point in some regards, right? Given the pure just volume of like molasses that they have to use, as opposed to if there was a higher ABV, right, of the wash, right? Because ultimately, you could less raw material, more ABV. So if you're having less, more raw material and even less ABV, that's right. That's you're going to pass it on to me and you, right, as a consumer.
Yeah,
I'd imagine.
I mean, if you don't, then you're either doing like an insane amount. You're just cranking it out, so you're selling a lot more bottles. But like for reference, my kind of aim for my fermentations is around 10% ABV.
Oh,
that's my kind of aim. So yeah. So all right, recap on LROK. This is where I start to get a lot more fruitiness on the nose. I don't know about you, whereas the first two tend to be more like citrus and grassy forward for me, and you get some brininess, right? This tends to start to go into those overripe fruits. Like I'm getting like overripe mango, overripe plantain. I start to get that like juicy pineapple. So we've moved from the core now into like the actual meat of the pineapple. And it's a little waxy on the nose as well.
And we're talking the unaged expression, right?
Yeah, this is unaged. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd definitely say it's a little bit more where maybe I didn't get a whole lot of rotting quality. I'm getting what seems, I know we're going to get into full on rot later, but I feel like this is like the first baby step into that.
Yeah, it's lovely. LROK's a great mark.
Have you had the younger, the 5-year that they released?
I have. Yeah, I'm looking at like my little samples. And I don't know if it's over there still or if I drank it all, just like a little sample. Nice fruits, figs, dried figs, that pineapple thing comes forward. There is a little bit, you said on LFCH, like you got a little peppercorn thing. I just got that on this, again, on the unaged. So, and this one, I was comparing it in color to LFCH, and like much lighter than the 1-year-old LFCH. Yeah, so interesting. And this one, Armander, has high concentrations of furfurols.
Furfurols.
But that's at least what it says in the blurb. But it looks kind of comparable to, at least as far as the pie chart goes.
Do you still pick up fruit on the nose of the age expression?
I do. Yeah. Do you?
Well, I'm kind of more locked onto this like chocolate hazelnut thing that I'm getting.
Oh, okay.
That I didn't get on the nose of the unaged.
Interesting. I feel like the fruits go more raisins and prunes and dried figs on the nose. Like we go from overripe fruits now to like dried fruits.
Dried fruits. Am I tripping, or is there a little bit of grape, or like maybe raisin? Right. Yeah, I knew that.
The dehydrated grape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This is a nice nose.
Oh wow. I'll wait for you to share notes because I've got something I picked up on there I've never picked up before.
This, I feel like is honestly, I'm getting a lot of overlaps in flavors, but now it has this like subtle layer of maybe we're like dialing up the dried figs and turning that into like fig jam.
Ooh.
But with some spices as well. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of overlaps, which is interesting. Like, I don't know, it kind of tastes like a similar mark, or a similar as the unaged, but now with an increased layer of complexity. Which just sounds like, yeah, Robin, it's the same mark.
Well, no,
what are you getting?
Because I didn't think that I thought the LFCH aged felt very much like a different rum. I personally didn't really find a lot of the characteristics of the unaged LFCH in the aged version. Here, I can see that. One of the things I wanted to point out that I get in both, I don't know if I ever picked this up before, on the unaged was a little bit of like anise, or like anise, or maybe like licorice even. And it's, to me, I get a little bit of the unaged, but it's really ramped up for me in the aged expression.
Okay.
And maybe, because I'm surprised I picked it up on the unaged, but maybe, obviously there's a bunch of rums in my mouth right now, all intermingling.
No, I see.
But I picked it up like going backwards, going to the unaged LROK is when I started note. Oh yeah, there is a little bit of anise or licorice there. It's fainter and it's just a little more amplified. And there's even like a roasty element or something on the aged LROK.
Well, it does have a high concentration of furfurols, which, as we know, are responsible for roastiness. So your palate is just a GCMS, Armander.
I don't even know what that means, but I love it. What is a GCM?
GCMS, gas chromatograph mass spectrometer.
Oh, people always say that about my mouth, or always say
they
that.
do. Yeah. So
GCM,
I mean, it's kind of true, right? Like you are able to what that does, I think they used HPLC for the chemical analysis of the aged version, but I believe they used GCMS for the unaged. But yeah, just an analytical tool that gives you the chemical breakdown of what you're smelling and tasting, and we're equipped with that, right? We've got a nose and a palate. Yeah.
And so that's essentially what the graphs that they have in both those sheets are based on that data from the GMP whatever and the HCLF or whatever. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I like this. I think this is it's a nice amount of oak without overpowering the unaged version. Whereas I feel like, I don't know, the LFCH was like big oak extract, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I felt like the wood really dominated the LFCH, but here it's a little more distillate forward.
I wonder if we'll continue to see that trend moving forward with the higher marks, right? The more potent the white spirit is, the harder it is to kind of overpower those flavors.
Yeah, you know, that was my hypothesis too when I was first in my initial tastings over the last couple of weeks. And I don't know where I landed on that, but that's
you're not going to spoil it for us.
Well, no. I don't remember, frankly, because a lot. Okay. And I just a tough time. Like I had these grand plans of like making a final conclusion to what you just said, and at the end of it, I just totally lost sight of it. So I hope you can track that better than I can. Oops, I just spilled rum all over my keyboard. That's fun.
I had intentions of taking notes, and my notes are pretty sparse. So I was like, I'm going to write down also what Armander gets. Ooh, that was a lot of fig jam on that. Oh, this is nice. This is great. I don't know. Sometimes it's really fun to be analytical. As a chemist and chemical engineer, I love being analytical. But it's also just like even more fun to just appreciate the spirits for what they are, and not do a comparative tasting, which is we're doing a comparative tasting. But
sure.
Yeah,
I would say I've not always been a fan of the unaged LROK, but I think if I had to pick, I would definitely go with the age expression.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe that's also the case with LFCH. I think OWH, I think I might prefer the unaged version personally. But at least these last two, I really do like the age expressions. I like what they're doing. I mean, not that it's not like a contest or anything like that.
Do you have the younger on you?
Oh God, do I? Somewhere.
I don't know that I do. No.
You know what? It's
no. We got a comment. Why not break out the younger for a 1-year-old versus 5-year-old comparison?
Yeah, damn it! It's somewhere like in this closet. It's a mess. It would make for bad TV for me to grab it. But maybe the other thing which we didn't mention, I don't think we mentioned, because clearly we've spent an hour and a half and we're not even on the 4th mark. So our grand plans of trying to do, I think we initially thought we'd do all 8 marks in an hour. That's not going to happen.
Oh, I was certain we would do 45 minutes. Oh yeah, all of them, all 8 in an hour. Yeah. I was like, we could do it in 59 minutes.
I like the ambition, but so the idea, what we did was we were only going to do the first 4 in this particular video, and then sometime in the future we were going to do the back 4. Hopefully on this blog's neat. That's the idea.
Hopefully.
I'm excited to do that. So yeah, just to know that we're gonna. I think probably should move on to. Unless you have any final thoughts.
I don't have any final thoughts. I think this is great. I honestly, like, as a 1-year-old rum, I think this is really enjoyable. So, yeah.
Let's move on to HLCF, aka also known in its 63% ABV version, Rumfire. Also
Rumfire.
In its aged 4 years at some sort of ABV as HLCF Classic. It obviously uses HLCF as well. It stands for Hampden Light Continental Flavored. I am a big fan of it. Though, if anyone's seen my YouTube video from a couple months back with Derek and I from the Make and Drink channel, we did a blind tasting of a lot of those Jamaican overproof rums, and I didn't really care for it neat. And I don't know if I ever necessarily said I ever did care for it neat. I just think it's fantastic in cocktails, and I absolutely adore it. But I think it was one of my least favorites as a neat sipper. But that's okay. These things happen. It was blind.
Blind tastings are the best way to taste, though.
They are. That's true. I really do recommend it. It humbles you too.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to talk about, while I kind of get into this and smell it, like what's it different about HLCF?
Let's talk about what makes HLCF different. This from LROK, right? So this also has low concentrations or low amounts of cane vinegar, Dunder, and muck added in to the fermentation. However, LROK was at 200 to 400 grams of esters per hectoliter of pure alcohol, and HLCF is at 400 to 600 grams of esters per hectoliter of pure alcohol. So we have a lot more, a lot higher concentration of esters. And they do this by having an increased fermentation. So LROK, right, the total fermentation time was 5 days. For HLCF, the total fermentation time is 7 days. So they still have the alcoholic fermentation as 3-day long fermentation, but now the dead wash is a week long. And so during that dead wash, we're clearly getting a lot more buildup of esters being produced. And if we also look at kind of the breakdown of esters, because I love looking at the pie charts, HLCF is also has a higher diversity of non-ethyl acetate esters than LROK and OWH, right? It's similar to LFCH, which is funny that you pointed out now HLCF and LFCH. But just as far as kind of like the breakdown of those non-ethyl acetate esters, let's see if I can do this. As compared to LROK, as compared to LFCH, as compared to OWH, right? We have a kind of a higher diversity of those non-ethyl acetate esters. Yeah, that's what we've got. And I can also look at the data on the aged version and speculate about that if we want to, or make little notes about that. So again, as I said, as far as like the non-volatile compounds, you're making a thinking face, Arminder.
No, I'm drinking a rum fire taste.
Oh,
I'm making a face.
Okay, I thought it was a thinking face.
You don't allow my pain to get in the way of your breakdown.
So it has, again, furfurols are the kind of highest concentration. Again, relative, this is all me looking at the pie charts that they've included. I don't have actual values here. But it looks like as far as non-volatile chemical compounds goes, the furfurols are the ones that are most predominant. So those roasty notes. But if we look at the volatile compounds, we kind of get more of an even spread between whiskey lactones, creosols, and syringol, which I think is interesting and just something that I'm noting. I don't know if it's anything of note, but according to the little blurb, the influence of wood components is evident on the aged. Would you say? Did you taste the aged already?
I did, but yes. But to me, the most evident one was the LFCH. It's there, the LFCH. For sure. Yeah, but
yeah.
But in terms of the unaged HLCF or HL, I'm saying it right. I have had some stuff to drink. The thing that really stands out is a mix of like, gosh, like some sort of like, is it fennel and olive? Some sort of like, I'm just thinking like food. I'm not immediately even jumping to like fermented pineapple on the aroma of the unaged. I do get that, but to me, the thing I'm picking up right now is some brininess or salinity, and like a bit of a fennel. Fennel. I don't know if it's absinthe, but which is really interesting.
This is on the unaged?
On the unaged, yeah. Because, and then when I switch over to the aged expression, I get less of that. There is pineapple. So the unaged, I'd say what fruit there is feels like a fermenting pineapple. I'm not getting less of that on the aged expression. I get like a baked good. I get like a little bit of a cookie, and I'm trying to place the exact type of cookie. It's maybe a snickerdoodle of some kind is kind of what it's evoking, perhaps, or the speculoos. Some sort of like baked good or cookie that has some amount of like baking spices to it. Maybe some cinnamon, which I don't really get here. Yeah, I think the unaged, a lot more of that fruit, the fermented pineapple, that fennel, and I'm losing that with the aged expression, and it's to me replaced by like a holiday baked good aroma, which is kind of nice.
So my non-Glencairns here. I definitely don't recommend nosing and tasting directly out of bottles. That's not the best way to do it. But it's funny that you say you get less pineapple on the nose of the aged, because in this glass configuration right here, it's more predominant.
Oh wow, interesting. It's almost like we're two different people with two different sets of sensory organs.
Weird, right? Yeah.
Now, in terms of the taste of the unaged, I get that kind of start of now, a little bit of that oily kind of gasoline-esque kind of note that I will, often associate with a lot of the higher ester Hampden rums. But it's also kind of perfumey, or like a little bit of like potpourri on the palate of the unaged HLCF. And it ends, to me, a little bit of that kind of classic. Again, maybe I'm the only one that thinks it's classic, but there's like this banana note that it's like strawberry banana. To me, that's to me the hallmark of like a Hampden flavors. And I might be the only one that picks up that berry strawberry note intermingled with that banana.
It's a funny note.
Yeah. And then going to the palate of the aged. I think that gasoline is oilier now, richer. But what I'm getting now is like a sweet wood or licorice absinthe note, which is also, again, something I called out. Was it in the last one? Absinthe, or maybe it was LFCH. I don't remember. Maybe it was LROK. But I'm getting a little bit more of that now here as well.
A little bit of that, like the licorice star anise thing on. I think it was on the LROK.
Yeah, I'm getting that here on the aged expression as well. Bill on the chat, Fuffernoose, if that might be what I'm getting actually. That it's in that vein.
I don't know what that is. Well, I see it's a German style Christmas cookie.
Yeah, I feel like I had some of that in Vienna.
Wow.
And, it feels like, hey, I get around. I'm a worldly person. I get a little bit of that. Yeah. So to me, I think this one and the last one, to me, the biggest change has been adding those elements of the licorice absinthe, woody kind of notes to both of the unaged marks that obviously I'm not really getting in the unaged expressions.
Now, let me ask you, of what we've tried here, which one would you grab to sip on as is? Or which one are you like, "Ooh, I'd really like to try that in a cocktail"?
Oh, for sure, the aged LFCH in a Mai Tai. It tastes like a Mai Tai to me. It has that nutty orgeat kind of note.
Mhm.
And so it places me in that headspace already. So I would double down on that and want to try that in a Mai Tai. And I might. And I will. I mean, I've got enough in there, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
for
you've
sure.
got
What do you
enough
need?
for a
Like,
Mai Tai
you
for
need
sure.
2 ounces? Yeah, I can make that happen. Yeah. I think, what about you? Do you have any feeling, or are you being pulled in a certain way in terms of,
So, man, you know, I'm like terrible at cocktails. I great at making them. Very, very, very simple cocktails though. So I don't tend to dabble. I tend to like to enjoy the spirit as is. And the 1-year-old LROK, I feel like that would be
mm,
one where I could actually like sit and enjoy it, which is funny because I feel like out of the 4 that we tasted, it seems like it has the lightest oak impact, but I
mm,
think it's just enough. I don't know. Whereas for me, like the LFCH, the 1 year is like too oaky, where I would want to see how that evolved over time in the cask. And it's like, it's not done yet. It's extracted everything and now it needs to do its magic. Versus like the LROK 1 year, I'm like, oh, that's actually nice at 1 year old. Cool. I'll like take a sample of this and enjoy this. So yeah, I think LROK 1-year old was
wow.
probably my fave out of the lineup here.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
And this was a lot of fun, as he says, trying to wrap this up. I guess, given that we're at an hour and a half, I can't believe we've gotten to hour and a half, which is great. Look, we're having a good time. Hopefully, people are watching this. Are
Yeah.
enjoying it, and hopefully, we're enjoying it. What Scott says, what I always get Southern dessert cart on aged light continental marks, pineapple upside down cake. Oh, interesting. Banana pudding and cobbler.
Banana pudding.
Okay. Yeah. I want some banana. We don't, as a culture, as a society, we don't eat enough banana pudding. Or maybe I don't. Maybe it's just me. Maybe the rest of y'all are eating shit ton of
Oh,
banana pudding left, right, and
when
center.
I
I'm not eating enough.
when I lived in New York City, I would go to Magnolia's for their banana pudding all the
Ooh.
time. They were known for their cupcakes, but like they were actually known for their banana pudding. So good. So good.
Ooh.
But
I'm going there in a few weeks. So I'll have to hit that up.
all right, stop at Magnolia's for banana pudding.
I'm gonna tell them Robin sent me.
Yeah.
Like,
They definitely know me there. Yeah, for sure.
Let's wrap this up. Do you so we talked about this. I mean, I am interested in kind of going back, it's really spending some time and kind of jotting down notes. I'm assuming you'll probably do that as well.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you might even do like a video. I'm not to force you to do a video or ask you to do
The pressure's on now. Yeah, I'll probably
yeah.
I'll probably do. I don't know. I'll probably do a video on it, but definitely not as in depth. Yeah, as an hour and a half long live video.
Well, we'll see. So I think that's the idea. Is we did these 4 here, kind of had some fun. We'll do the next 4. I obviously I know you're going to be busy next week or 2 or so. So we'll find a time that works, and we'll both obviously promote it so everyone who's watching will know when to tune in. Hopefully, give you guys more advance notice than a day before, if possible. Which is whatever. And we'll do the remaining 4. I'm gonna have. I'll be real with you right now. I'm gonna have a tough time. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the back half of the. I'm not even talking about the age expression. I'm talking about the unaged expressions. I know
Yeah.
folks love their high ester Hampdens, and I don't know, man. It's heartburn city, frankly, for me.
Yeah. Oh
Just
man.
yeah.
It's definitely going to be fatiguing for the palate for sure. I don't know.
Right.
I love them. I love them.
Really.
Yeah. Hamden could put out anything, and I'd be like, oh. they could bottle gasoline, and I'd be like, this is so amazing, guys. Great job. Um, but yeah, yeah, they're just so fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're just so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. And look, and to the point that like no one, at least here in the US market, no one is doing things like this, like Hampden. And like, that is so
Yeah.
awesome. Mad props to them for doing that. And I want everyone else to, every other distillery to do something like this. It doesn't have to be to the scale of this, but like, how cool is this, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's how cool is that we're doing this, but like, as just a rum lover, the fact that I have this stuff that I can compare and contrast is such an amazing experience. I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
On multiple levels. Yeah. I love this so much. So
yeah, absolutely. And someone on the comment, Katus is asking or mentioning the Velier Triple Entente set. Has it made it to US? As far as I know, it was only a Europe, or definitely not a US release. It was, I think, a Europe only release. And that being said, to your point, there is supposedly a new mark, an R Diamond H mark. So there's this new 9th mark, or potentially it maybe has been a mark that they've had for a while and they've never commercially done anything with it or to the public. I don't know, but I would love for it to be available. From my understanding, it's not coming to the US. I think whatever sets were available have come and gone. I did spend like a good month in earlier this summer, like constantly every like hour refreshing a bunch of like European online retailers, hoping I'd somehow magically stumble upon it and order it and have it shipped here. That didn't happen, which is fine. These things happen. But I am very much intrigued to see this mythical 9th mark, Hampden mark. And
it makes sense. There's a gap between HLCF and Diamond H.
Aha. That's
it
true.
Makes sense that it exists.
Right down the middle. Yeah. It'd be
right down the middle.
Yeah. It'd be right in the middle. Yeah. I'm curious. I would love, and I don't know if anyone here has had it. There are a few people I know online who have gotten their hands on the set. I'm curious to see what they think. I will reach out to them to get their opinions on it. But anyways, Robin, any closing thoughts? Any final thoughts here?
This was great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for initiating this. I mean, honestly, thank you for making this happen, and thank you for lighting a fire under my butt to put this together. I feel like you've helped me fish for the rest of my life by figuring out how to live stream. Prior to you texting me, I did not know how to live stream, and here we are live streaming an hour and 37 minutes and 32 seconds into this. Yeah, thank you. Keep an eye out, everyone. We'll promote it at some point whenever we do the second half. Again, if you don't already, please make sure you go to This Blog's Neat. It's a funny thing to say, This Blog's Neat YouTube channel, but definitely go there. Subscribe to Robin. Again, she puts out some fantastic content, and you really get to see someone who clearly knows what they're talking about, and is able to explain some of these heavier concept stuff in a very approachable manner, easy to digest. The cool thing, which I don't think we ever talked about, you did like some tastings of some really cool nerdy rums recently, all those higher ester stuff, like the MOBA stuff, the Dropwork stuff, all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, the MOBA. Yeah. Yep.
That is super cool. So you want really cool rum nerdy stuff? Check that out. You want just some really cool rum content in general? Definitely go to This Blog's Neat, and definitely check out Rum at All, Robin's rum, the rum that she produces. This is the baseline, which is sold out, but the Dunder clap is still available, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Dunder.
I have to lean backwards.
There you go.
Variable. Yeah, the Dunder clap expression.
Nice. Very cool. Rumatall.com. Is that the URL?
Rumatelier.com. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. We'll include it in the description down below.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Robin. Thank you all. Yeah. Currently 24, but at some point I think we had like 35 people, which blows my damn mind. Wow. Thank you for all the comments, and apologies if I didn't respond to everyone. We didn't respond to everyone. You're all great. There was a comment. Someone said something very nice, and I do want to acknowledge them. They're probably not even watching anymore. What was it earlier up? I think it was Paul. Paul says some very nice things about us. And so what's up, Paul? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to try to now very like casually try to figure out how to end this so it doesn't seem like I'm like hunting for a button and like looking all over my screen to end this stream. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. Catch y'all next time. Peace. Bye. I can't find the button. Oh my God, I can't find the button. Where is it?